For years, I did night shifts in residential care facilities. One of the spookiest was in a sole-charge dementia facility. 15 D3 residents, and no one but me to keep an eye on them all. Around 3 a.m. in the morning, after doing an intentional round where you check all the residents are safe and well, I hear the doorbell ring. I get a sudden wave of goosebumps because this is a secure facility and it's the middle of the night. I go and look, put the window. There is no one there. I blow it off as being a hallucination. 10 minutes later, it rings again. I'm shitting myself. I go back to the window and check again. No one there, but I look across the street, and a strange car is parked there. I take a photo of it, just in case. And then I go back to my station where I've been playing a game of match the card suits with a delightful but very demented lady. I sit down, and she looks at me and says, "What did the gentleman want, dearie? He looked like he had a bad night and needs a cuppa." Chills go down my spine, but I brush it off because hallucinations are common with dementia. And this lady is particularly prone to not being orientated to time and place. The doorbell rings again, less than 5 minutes later, and this time I am freaking out. Another of my residents is up and walking the hallway painting, with a clean paintbrush to keep him occupied. I pass him on the way to the front window, and he turns to me and says, "Don't answer the door alone, he might hurt you," before carrying on painting. I was shitting myself. I'm trying not to cry. I don't know what to do. I'm a single 23-year-old female in charge of 15 people with varying stages of dementia, and the freaking doorbell keeps ringing in the middle of the night, and it's a weekend, so my on-call won't answer the phone. She never does on the weekends. I look out the window and see the same car as before, and as I'm looking around, I see a shadow move in front of the door, and a person walks around the corner and then looks straight in the window next to me. We make eye contact, and I scream. My residents start freaking out. I'm freaking out. And the guy just bolts. I call the police. They turn up. It's chaos because I have 15 residents who have all been woken by the commotion and now have 2 police officers in their space. My on-call isn't answering her phone, and I'm struggling to deal with the whole situation. Eventually, after many cups of tea and Milo and 2 lots of PRN meds for the more challenging residents, we're mostly settled. It's now 7 a.m., and the handover shift arrives of a nurse and a caregiver. I tell them what happened, and they tell me that there was a woman down the road whose house was broken into, and she was attacked in her bed by a drug seeker who ransacked her house looking for drugs. I have an internal meltdown because we have drugs in the cupboard in the med room. Good drugs too. Morphine, methadone, fentanyl, etc. I can't help but wonder if he was intentionally looking for us and just took the next best option. For reference, the facility was an old converted boarding house in a gentrified area, so lots of old doctors' houses in the area. Easy to mistake the home I worked at for a regular house. I left that job not long after because they refused to hire a second person to work the nights, despite it being understaffed according to best practice guidelines.
I worked as a security guard in a YMCA as an 18-year-old kid. It was a bit of a joke job as the hostel part of the building was being used as informal social housing, that is runoffs from the prison or vulnerable people. The police would visit around 3 times a week to take people away who were causing problems, and many were ex-cons or on drugs. The rest of the buildings, gym, exercise halls, small canteen, was all closed up and the lights turned out at night. My job was to work 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., checking these buildings every couple of hours, and also do a walkthrough of the hostel part to check nothing was up. There had been a spate of suicides just before I got there, and in the previous week, I'd had to listen to a distraught brother for an hour on the phone as he begged me to check on his sibling who had threatened to kill himself several times. So anyway, I was on my walkthrough on the bottom floor. All the lights were off. Everything was quiet. To access the bottom floor, I needed to take the elevator down to the basement level. It was an old goods elevator, not for public use. I got down, did my walkthrough okay, and was on the corridor in sight of the elevator when it pinged and opened, even though I was alone and hadn't called it. It was covered in blood. When I got to it, there was blood all over the glass mirrors, a little well of blood near the control panel, and blood over the keys. It looked like someone had been murdered. There was no body or tissue, just blood. Suitably freaked out, I jumped in as quickly as I could and pinged up to the reception level. When I got out, I went straight to the desk and informed them what I had seen. The guy there was pretty unwilling to help, but we agreed we should call the police and an ambulance. As we were discussing this, a different elevator pinged and opened right in front of us, and a guy who looked like a zombie walked out. His face and head was a big welt of blood, and he was on crutches. He looked very confused, and then he fell over, right in front of us. Basically, this guy was a very high drug addict, had tried to take the stairs up to his room in the hostel, fell over, cut his head right open, got concussed, got into the wrong elevator, pressed to go up a level. But when he got there, he'd fallen into the control panel and sent it back down to the basement, only after managing, somehow, to get out the floor above. He'd been wandering around the place, leaving a trail of blood in his wake, trying to find help. We called the ambulance. I was severely freaked out.
I used to work at a pub that was 2 miles from my house. My shift ended at about 3 a.m. one night. I stayed there for a couple of drinks, then started walking home. Now, this had been an exceptional night for me tip-wise, and I had close to $400 in cash on me at the time. Between the pub and my house was exactly one street light about a quarter mile from the pub. The rest of the walk was in complete darkness. This was a dark night too. It was close to the new moon and cloudy to boot, so it was almost pitch black. Now I live out in the boonies, so there isn't even much light pollution to help out. Not long after I leave the pub, a car slowly drives by me. About a quarter mile down the road, the car slows to a stop and it just sits there. I stop walking and watch the car. It sits for a few minutes, then slowly drives away. A couple of minutes later, the same car comes slowly driving back by me in the opposite lane. It gets by me, drives a bit down the road, and slows to a stop again. Then it does a U-turn and starts creeping back down the road towards me with the lights off. At this point, I was terrified. I don't have a cell phone at the time. There's no one around to see what's going on. The car is between me and the pub, so I can't get back to the safety there. My house is still about 1.5 miles away. No way I can quickly escape there. I quickly run off the road into the woods and duck down behind a bush. I watch for the car, but it's too dark to see it with the lights off and bushes, trees, undergrowth between me and the road. I sit there for about 10 minutes but don't see or hear anything. I'm about to make my way back to the road when I hear car doors closing. Now I'm really panicking. It feels like my chest is about to explode. The hairs on the back of my neck is standing up. I keep imagining someone sneaking up behind me. I stay hidden and hope to God whoever it is doesn't find me. I don't know how long I stay there, but I eventually hear car doors again, then cars passing by. I give it a couple of minutes, then ease back to the road. When I see it's clear, I haul ass back to the pub and let my boss know what happened. He said then and there that I'm never to walk home at night again. Either him, his brother, or his mom will give me a lift home. When the other servers and the kitchen staff heard what happened, they said there was news about a serial killer lurking around the nearby town, just 5 miles from where our town was located. I suspected it must have been him that night. Never been that terrified before.
Ladies and gentlemen, brave souls and seekers of the supernatural, you've just embarked on a journey through the cryptic realms of fear with your host, Old Nicholas Black. For more enigmatic stories, subscribe to Black Scary Stories. Until next time, this is your host, Old Nicholas Black, bidding you farewell. Fear not the night, for within it lies the essence of haunting tales.